Hello and welcome to the DM's Book Club, a podcast where each episode we talk about a topic to do with Dungeons & Dragons and how we can fit it in our role-playing campaigns. With me, as ever, even though that was slightly wrong, that sentence, is Fiona.
It's
Fiona.
me. Oh, if only the audience could hear the last 10 minutes of us doing technical difficulties.
We are after our super professional recording in a very super professional recording studio.
Yes.
The next one we do is me dropping my cameras, falling about, and can't even get into a chair without looking like an idiot.
Well, what a shame. Well, if we ever have a Patreon or a Ko-Fi or Coffee, apparently that's how it's pronounced now. That's what we'll have to do to do that. How are you, Hamilton?
I'm okay, actually. I've come down from the sort of like surreal, what the heck did we do on Saturday business.
Yeah.
But other than that, yeah, I'm fine. I've had a cold, but okay. You know, who hasn't?
Yeah.
And yeah, excited to be recording more DM's Book Club.
Yeah, it's been a little while for us in terms of recording stuff, but we actually at time of recording, we just did a weekend record in a very exciting location. I got up to Bristol. I know we're both doing like hand gestures.
Yeah.
We got our friends Chloe and Stuart, and we were in a nice little studio. You ran a game. I was there slightly editing it, and it was I think, and I've said this to you before, I think it's the coolest thing I've done this year, and I'm already like
in February.
Yeah, and I don't think things were going to top it. I don't have anything in the pipeline that will top it. So I can't wait for people to see what you've done. Really, all three of us are just hanging onto your coattails essentially.
Oh no, 100% no. I'm just sequestering all the good talent, and I'm just sitting there going, how the heck did I do this? I don't really know. But there you go. No, so I'm very excited. I'm going to try and push this to the top of the list of stuff to get out, because I think it went well, and I also think because of that, it doesn't actually require as much editing as other things I've done.
Well, we'll see. Yes, it
was actually really shit, Hamilton. I don't know what you're on about.
Not at all. That was more of a reflection on me and everything. But yes, hopefully that will come out, and we'll talk about it at another point, which is exciting. But on a similar note, I'll say, because obviously we're going to do some more recording again at time of recording later this week. So in the future for us, but obviously past us when you're listening to this, of the game system that you ran, because it wasn't D&D.
It was not.
We've spoken about it a little bit on and off podcasts, so again, apologies if you have heard us talk about it, but we are considering doing a spin-off show to the DM's Book Club.
What's this?
I know. Using different game systems. So hopefully there'll be the first sort of proof of concept recording, and see how we go with that, essentially. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been reading all the game system on that, and you know what? I forgot how much I really enjoy reading different systems that I don't necessarily have the pressure to play. So I feel great about it myself. Whereas obviously I know you had to learn quite a bit of it in order to run the game.
But as well, can we mention what the system was? I'm sure we can mention what the system was.
Sure. I just don't want to like take it out. You know, I'm giving it to you to say.
Okay, so it was Blade Runner, which is a Free League publication. I found actually that a lot. You know, there's a lot in there, but as with all games that I play, you don't roll. You roll a lot. You roll very many. You don't roll many dice if you do, and when you do, it's you kind of get particularly with the nature of the game. It's a detectives game, and with that, like the character creation is the real crunch, right? That's where you're like, oh my gosh, and there's other things that we'll get into when we talk about it in more detail, but. What I found when playing the game is it was you roll observation and you roll tech a lot, and then when you get to fighting, which we did once at some point, I won't mention when because I don't want to give away, but the rules weren't actually too obtrusive in the end, actually, I'd say. And the fun thing about it more is, and what I found about it was, even though I could probably make exactly the same storyline in any system if I wanted to, it was the fact that it drove me to that story type that was fun, a detective mystery, and people came to it looking for that. Because I think if you came to D&D with all the D&D tools you have at your disposal, it becomes really difficult to create mysteries. So it's like, I'm just going to magic the crap out of this, or I can thieves tool my way out of any room, and I could, and then you hit a door. But the point is, because of the simplistic nature of the character, the characters themselves, even though the character creation is complicated, what they are able to do is what pretty much a human can do, plus a bit of extra tech and a funky car, is that you're able to enjoy a mystery kind of thing.
It's I think for me, because I know, and we'll definitely talk about this when we do the recording on that, but there's definitely elements of like City of Mist, that sort of idea of doing the mystery and the story stuff. But it's interesting how obviously a lot of reliance on D&D and 5th E currently, before obviously I know 1 D&D and all that sort of thing is coming up. It's interesting how such a system can really restrict imagination and stuff. And I've always said this about so what am I rolling, is that the reason I played lots of different games is because each different mechanic makes me think about stuff in a different way and maybe is suited to different stories. And I'm always a big positive like encourager of people trying out new games. And I think, and we'll go on to this when we talk about the OGL stuff, is that sort of thing, because it's such a big, powerful thing, the 5th edition system. That it funds and it upholds lots of things, and people just go, oh, it's just easy just to create it, something in that. Oh, stat block, here's a, I remember for Thanksgiving, like here are different monster turkeys using 5th edition stat blocks. And it's, for me, it is the gateway, 5th edition, D&D currently is the gateway to get in. But what Free League is doing, as again, at time of recording, I'm halfway through an Alien RPG campaign. Yeah. It's very different about telling stories. And it's interesting with Free League as well. The last thing I'll say on it is that it does say you don't have to roll lots of dice for everything, but this is what you need when you do. And then there's a lot of rules. But that's fine, actually. And I actually prefer that. Less rolling, but more juice to it, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. The thing I got the most out of it was their case file and how they made that gave me this impetus to make something. And I feel like more on Free League stuff like the One Ring, the nature of the way it's split into those two phases of the adventuring phase and the fellowship phase makes you just think about how the game will work in a different way. And just because your mind gets filled with the D&D is definitely not Lord of the Rings. And I was watching a very interesting, I was recommended it via watching another show. I was watching Arbiter Ian talking about Necromunda. And then he was mentioning a show that Matt Colville did about making the same character in every system of D&D, up from the original when it was called Men and Magic, I think Dungeons and Dragons, Men and Magic, through to 5e, and made the same human fighter and how you would go about doing that. And his point is, in the introduction to the first ever bit of Gary Gygax's text, it references some stories that are good references for you, like to influence your games. And it was Conan the Barbarian. It was the guy who goes to Mars. I forget what the really shit Disney movie person. What's his name? You know what I mean? The person in the Disney movie, the guy, but it's pulp. But it was it never mentioned Lord of the Rings. And this is in the 70s when the Lord of the Rings was huge, because it was not epic fantasy. It was gritty. It was gritty pulp fantasy. It's based on pulp fantasy, and it's like Heroes of Master of the Universe and all that sort of cartoony stuff, like it's not, and it is grim dark for the 70s, if you know what I mean. Like it's sort of, for that, it's sort of grim dark in its own way. And it made me think more of like Mork Borg's Dark Fort sort of thing than it did, than it does what people I think come into it. And then so when you look at Free League's One Ring, you realize, this is about epic adventures in a different way, in a very cinematic way, and so the same with the Blade Runner. It's like, this is about
trench coats, neo noir, sci-fi, a place where technology isn't trusted. I kind of forgot that watching the films and stuff, that they don't trust technology because of this thing. Anyway, we could talk about this on the other show.
Sorry, yes. We were talking about D&D, though. I did mention the origins of D&D. Yes. I mentioned Gary Gygax, so we've done some D&Ding, right?
All right, we've passed the YouTube test of getting it in, absolutely. So Hamilton, what are we talking about today?
Well, even though we're rambling, we're going to probably ramble for a bit longer. We're doing I felt, it was both of us, we're not hiding away from the fact that there has been something that happened in the current times in D&D, hadn't there?
Yes. Even now, when we're recording this again, just for clarity, at the end of February, January was an incredibly tough time hearing stuff. And even looking at the various blog posts now, they were like sort of this time a month ago, and it feels like ages, but also yesterday, what we're talking about today.
If people aren't aware, they probably are, but it's the OGL, and I think I'm quite happy that we've done it in this way, because at the time there was a lot of reaction, and I'm not saying that and that was all with lots of positivity, and I think the community rallied together in a really great way to overcome something that was obviously a shitter. But I think we did not need to add any more voices to that beyond the amount of memes that I made and said things on Twitter. I didn't need to, I don't know, I didn't feel like doing a podcast really was gonna add to the it at the time. It didn't feel like it felt like there was enough people out there saying the right things with much more important and better said things, to be honest.
And we said that as well in our last episode, which again, time recording was the clerics episode, the Unearthed Arcana. And I think what's interesting, again, just for clarity, there will be links to the article by Linda from IO9 about basically Wizards try to sneakily, I would say sneakily, put out a new OGL, which would essentially restrict quite a lot of people creating content without copyright infringement and stuff like that. And it kind of just blew up. And it's been a lot of critique about how does a big company who's very popular suddenly through their own, like hoisted by their own petard in a way, fall down and retract everything, but at the same time encourage a whole lot of other companies to come up with their own OGL and give that out there and encourage other people to make content for their games. So I think whilst it has been a very emotional time, it has been a very creative time, and again, for me, coming out of it at the other end, it feels very hopeful, and I hope more people take up on this the Orc license.
I mean, the whole process, as I said, I went through all the emotions on it. I was like, first, like, and I said it to you afterwards, I just didn't want to play D&D straight, like, for the whole time that it was going on. And even afterwards, I still feel like D&D is a sort of dirty word for a bit, because it's just like, it was so, it's just such a kick in the teeth to what, I mean, again, we're doing what everyone else did, but repeating everyone's great words. But the point is, the community is what builds D&D, and it is what makes D&D. And going back to that Gary Gygax thing I was mentioning, is that, and Matt Colville was saying on this thing, and I don't know when he recorded this, maybe a few years ago, I think, or a year ago or so, but it states in that they didn't put any adventures out in the document. The document literally said how you build a character and how you roll dice. And then it says, as a DM, you must go away and make 6 levels of a dungeon. They'll give you a dungeon, you must go away. And that is the fundamental of Dungeons and Dragons, is here is the baseline information, and we will produce some adventures at some point, but really it's up to you, the player / DM, whoever the community as it is now, to create the world. And Gygax had that from the start as an ideology of, like, it's in your power of your imagination to create more and more wonderful ideas. And the whole idea was that you know, Alison's made her dungeon, and you go around to Alison's house and do that dungeon. Then you go over to like Jackson's house the next week and use their dungeon. And the whole point is that everyone's got their little dungeons and it's their own little thing, and everyone's doing something different. So you're not all like going, oh, well, we've played the adventure, now we're done. That's not the thing. And so that's grown into the modern era of internet, where we've got thousands upon thousands of extremely talented people out there making Dungeons and Dragons the amazing thing that it should be, because that's what it's based on. Anyway, so we all know, everyone knows this, and this is why I didn't want to do anything, because I hate saying everything that everyone knows.
But I think it's interesting because both you and I are content creators. Obviously, this podcast primarily is based on D&D content, and we talk about it. But I think thanks to our experience with D&D, it means we've opened up to other RPGs, and I definitely play and run so many more different RPGs compared to D&D now. I think what I do find interesting is that, I don't know, I'm surprised it took till now for the Orc license to come out, if you see what I mean. Like, I think, because this is the OGL, like, it's been so helpful. Like we said when we spoke to our friend Jimmy Flowers, Splinterverse, a couple of episodes ago, how that helped him during the pandemic to be like, fuck it, I'm gonna make homebrew content, and so many people did that. Like
I did. That's how I got back. Like, I was playing D&D, and then I was doing, when I was at home and just sitting there, well, I got these ideas, I might as well, I've got some time now, I'm sitting at home to like do some. And that's how I started getting into making content that led to where we are now. So
maybe that's what we need, is big pushes like this to go for. But I kind of wished I saw something like that earlier. I mean, obviously other RPGs have now capitalized on it, like Pathfinder. They are desperately trying to get reprinting of all their issues, because they sold out. The starter set for their second edition sold out, all that sort of thing. They did a Humble Bundle very recently, which was great. And this is where it's more of a discussion of amateurs rather than experts. I'm going to say it, and it's controversial. I hate Pathfinder in the sense of the website and the interface is fucking dreadful.
Needed to get a UX designer, yeah.
They need just because when you go onto it, I totally understand why they do this. They're like, here's all the print stuff, here's all this stuff. But if you want to be like, hey, you're about to start playing Pathfinder, here's the stuff you need, because
DnD Beyond is an incredible tool, and
I think we are spoilt by DnD Beyond, essentially, because like it says, here's what you need to just start, here's some bundles, etc. But it's not on their website at all. And then when you go into it, it's like, oh, do you want to download the whole thing or buy chapter? And I'm like, no, I just want it all in one thing. And it's just, I think it's just because there's so much Pathfinder content, which is fantastic, by the way. But it's like, for me coming into it, I'm like, I don't know where I'd start. What do I need as a GM? And I want to get other players into it who have never played Pathfinder before. At the beginner's box, okay, great. But what if they want, because it's like advanced player options, free volumes of of monster manuals, all that sort of thing. And you're just there going, what do I need if I'm starting out? And because obviously.
I know exactly what you mean. And I think there's, as someone who's got into Games Workshop products, I'm very much aware of the confusion in like, what the fuck do I need to buy? Like 6 books to understand how to actually play the game? It's the thing with me with Pathfinder is it's like, I know D&D. And the thing is, I want to veer very vehemently away from it whenever I'm going to go for another game, because it's like I don't. I know Luke from my Dragon's Duel sort of Shattered Realm thing would tell me that he loves Pathfinder, and everything I was doing that I changed in D&D was what they do in Pathfinder anyway. So it's fine. I get it, but it's kind of. I think your point. That's not the point. Why I don't. I think it's a really great alternative, and I think if I was coming to the community now and looking to learn a new system, if I was, or in January, you would go, well, I'm gonna go for the nice people that aren't trying to take everyone's money. And I know that, and I don't know, we've got to be fair to the fact that the monies that things that they were going after was like 750,000. It wasn't everyone's money, but it was still enough to affect a lot of people, but also the registration issues and like having to do that with DM's Guild, let alone, is such an absolute nightmare to get involved in the SRD content that you deal there. And I'm so glad that is now on the Creative Commons, because you don't even have to use DM's Guild now to use the SRD stuff, which you used to have to do in the past, correct? I think that's correct, isn't it?
I believe so, yeah. And I know there's been a lot of contention around this particular thing, but Kyle Brink has gone, basically the person who has sort of reined in whoever said the we
first post,
the we won, we both won statement, which
I read it again just a minute ago, and it has always in like, it's got loads of italicized wording, and you're like,
it's the passive aggressive thing from someone who has no idea what's going on in the team. So it does make it clear to me that this. We don't know who was involved with this sort of the OGL stuff, but it makes clear to me that it is people that don't have the designers, the people who play these games in the room. No. And I think it's very clear when there's talk of, the D&D film in a couple of months' time, we've got this TV show that I'm going to say Hasbro, but also Wizards of the Coast, maybe they're focusing, they're going away from, it's the adaptations that make more money. People go and see these things, but as a result, there's that cycle of like, we need to make more, the Kickstarter cycle, essentially, or maybe a certain tabletop company that we won't name, that just goes in and invest. And there's not the long-term goal. It's just like, we need to constantly a cash cow, essentially. And so this OGL stuff, as a result, I feel like that's come from it's been sort of
definitely
rumored.
Come from it definitely sounds like it's come from up high, and it's like, well, there was the thing a couple of years ago, we need to monetize D&D more. In my mind, I actually thought that was going to be something more akin to the Games Workshop system, which was like, we're going to go down the model route more than push that. That we're going to go for the VTT online subscription based thing. And I think the thing that they were talking about with D&D Beyond, like making it, £30 a month, and you get every single book available to you. You get all the VTT stuff, and that will kill all the other competition, which is awful as well. But that's kind of what I thought. And I thought it was also going to be, I don't think they would go down the Games Workshop, no one can make anything of our games thing. And I find that ironic when Warhammer is built off basically D&D, but anyway, whatever, it's the irony of it. You want to monetize it more. I think the thing is, it's that classic capitalist craziness of looking at something and going, not really understanding the product they've got in front of them and going, I want to monetize it more, and knowing that maybe you can't, and that's okay. And that actually the only thing you're going to do is destroy it, or you've got to look really laterally, which is about how can we monetize this more, is how can we make more good stuff that people want to spend money on,
supporting it,
or like the movie, or like video games. The thing with D&D is it is the fundamental. It's for everyone's brain box, and you've already put the game out. And even if you stop making new games, people could still play the game and play for infinity. You've made the Skyrim, and okay, Bethesda have released Skyrim 400 billion times on every single device, and that's how they've milked that cash cow. But the point is, you don't need to. You need to buy one copy of Skyrim, play it on your PS3, play it or computer, and you can play that for thousands of hours. And most people should be able to do that. And I think that's what they just need to look at D&D and say, well, if you want to do something different, you either do the Games Workshop, which is every 2 years it's a new system. Like Warhammer 40k was like, second edition was like 4 or 5 years, then it was third edition, then it was 4 or 5 years, fourth edition, and then it was like 2 years, fifth, 1 year, sixth, I think, or one of them was really quick, then seventh was 2 years, then it's like an every 2 or 3 year cycle you have a new edition. Well, they've had 5e for what we're talking now since
nearly
decade, isn't it?
Coming up to it was 2014.
So it'd be 9 years. It'll be a decade before the next, And I'm not saying that's what I don't want them to do that, but I'm saying that's where I thought they were going to go, which is like a 1 D&D, and then it'll be 1 D&D, 2 D&D, or whatever, D&DX, or I don't know, or
Infinity.
But the fundamental of it doesn't work, because once you've made a system that people can play and everyone can make their own system, you're really looking at something that, they go, well, we'll steal the money. We'll do the anti-Robin Hood, which is we're going to steal the money from everybody. We'll just steal from everyone else.
For the poor,
Yeah, we're not from the poor, but I thought of the anti, but they're the big cheese trying to take money from smaller cheeses. And that's just the shitty way to do it, and that's the crappy capitalist, boring, haven't even thought about it way. Whilst when actually what they could it's just stupid, it's poor, bad judgment, but it's also like
bad management.
It's just not good thinking. It's not even intelligent is what I'm looking for. It's not intelligent. It's not even going like looking at the system and thinking of maybe a way that you could make money, which I don't think we need to come up with now, but it's like, make a really good movie. I don't know if they have, but make a really good movie, or do something else, or make more books for us, or have more Minx and Boo Journal things that we want to buy. Like looking at 2E and 3E, there's so many, like, here's the sword cut, here's the guide to the north, Volo's guide to the north, Volo's guide to the south, Volo's guide to the east, they've talked about the Sword Coast. There's all of where's, you hire people, make content, sell it. Don't just go, oh, you're making all this content, we're just going to steal this from you. Thank you very much.
I mean, one big thing that happens with Hollywood certainly now is just remakes of good films, less so good. But like, you think they've got so much content. Obviously, Planescape is coming back out. We've covered previously like Blackmore, Al-Qadim, so other settings which again are of their time.
I don't think we want many of those back. But
but I feel like something like Al-Qadim, which is a very interesting. Essentially, it's a Hollywood version of Arabian Nights. So again, of its time. But can you imagine if like, okay, why don't we have something similar, but actually get people in that's their lived experience, that's and actually, because that could be really interesting. Like the same, I'm gonna
more settings like Ghost Walk or say, I don't know, anything. But like that's the point, is it's like it just comes across as lazy, greedy, and awful, basically, which is what it was. And when it could be like, hey, we need to monetize this. Well, we're going to expand the D&D, Wizards of the Coast D&D community workshop. We're going to get in loads of awesome new creators. And we're going to now, instead of it's going to be every 2 months, there will be a new book out. It will be Adventure Sourcebook, Adventure Sourcebook, Adventure Sourcebook. You're going to have more content for you because the community's working at that pace.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think the community would encourage this. It's not treading on the toes of the community. It's saying like, hey, here's more good stuff for you to use.
Mm-hmm.
Make a VTT. Great, make one that integrates with D&D Beyond. Perfect. Like that'd be really good. It'd also be good that I don't have to spend 50 quid here and 50 quid here and 50 quid here to buy the same Curse Strahd.
You want everything together. Yeah, absolutely.
So and also anything you make, we can just steal. It's just like,
it came across incredibly
but the 3 Black Halflings interview, and they were talking to Kyle about this. And And it's an amazing interview, and I recommend if anyone wants.
I'm going to put a link to the show notes. So yeah, just to clarify. So yeah, so Kyle Brink, the person we spoke about before, he then just went out and said, I will do interviews with whatever podcast was. So Ginny D did one. Free Black Halflings did an incredibly really good interview, and I think that, and I there's nothing much more to say on that, because I would recommend watching that, because I think people will say, oh, he's just saying the corporate line, etc. But I think it comes across in the interview incredibly well, and there's not like too much emotion or tension, and it just was a really, really good interview. So yeah,
I think exactly.
Yeah, Jeremy and Liv did a really good job on that interview.
Yeah, I think it was just there was obviously Kyle dodged a few questions, and and you and like which one is going to do, like you imagine. But I think what the things that they said was like, this is like it was a growing document, and it's built up, and it's it lost sight of the original intent, because they were focusing on this idea of trying to block major corporations from profiting. So the bigger cheeses, like the Metas or the Googles or the Apples or whatever of this world, profiteering off something that is given as a benefit to people who are the everyday people. And so you can kind of see the logic behind the 750,000 profit. I mean, it's a lot of money. We're talking about a lot of money here. Irrespective of that, again, it's back to the original. That's the point. But they also say, like, but then how did some of that language get to that point? Like the fact that I could understand that. Oh, we want to look at and try and thinking of ways, like the crappy, like how could, like someone does 5 ways we could control the amount of content. Well, one, everyone has to register their content, and then we have to check it, and like, okay, that is option 1, but we all go, well, that's in the bin, but we've written it down. So you have, like, every time you come up with a solution, you have to write all the solutions down that you think are, even if they're stupid, but you put them down and say, yeah, obviously that's a bad one. But the fact that was still in there, you're like, come on.
It feels a lot sometimes like working in higher education, where these documents get added and changed to it, and then suddenly they're out as well. But obviously, as you said, that doesn't mean, it's like, it reminds me very much of that Mitchell and Webb sketch where they're talking about cutting money, and then the big boss goes, have you not just tried killing all the poor? And they go, what? Put it in the system. Would that work? I'm just saying, we just do it. We don't actually do it, but let's just talk about it. And that's what it makes me feel like, that there are these solutions where they put it out there, and then but ultimately, the thing I wanted to say about it is that, it feels like the people that needed to be in the room weren't in the room. Like you said, they lost sight of it. And now, though, what we've got is that essentially the core mechanics is now through a Creative Commons license. And also you can quote from that the SRD, essentially. And they are essentially leaving the OGL 1.0A. Sorry, there's lots of, again, I appreciate this, just like lots of words for now, but there is like a play test document talking about it and getting the feedback, and just what they should have done is have it for the community, because I do feel as we progress, as we change, like I said, it's been almost 10 years. It does make sense that they would be anyway looking at the document to just check it makes sense and add stuff to it. I feel like if you just say, oh, we hold this up forever, that's not necessarily a positive thing, because everything should go through a review process and then have lots of checks on it. But that's just my view on that, because I know a lot of people were so angry about it, and even after this stuff came out, because it certainly has affected their next product, which is obviously the Golden Vault, which I know we'll talk to in a little time. Because the one thing I wanted to say in terms of when I was talking about Al-Qadim and Blackmore stuff like that, if we get people in to talk to, write stuff that, they have the experience of, and want to write about it, you get stuff like Radiant Citadel, which has done so well, has rated so highly. And I think we could keep doing that and allow that people who write third-party content to come to the forefront and write for official products.
But that's why, this is my point, make more content and allow more people to be a part of that official content would be even greater way. And that monetizes it if you want to make your money, but it also promotes all these amazing people in the community who are making great things.
I feel like it's just a big shame that this OGL stuff happened, and then there's been absolutely zero stuff on the Golden Vault, and then it just got released very quietly with a couple of videos, and I absolutely feel gutted about that, because could you imagine you worked on something for 2 years and then this stuff comes out, and obviously they can't cancel it because it's so close to the deadline, but then it's just released out, and there's been very little, they are doing a little bit of pieces, there are videos about it now,
but every video that is about it as well is so much more like, it just comes with this, it's just tainted with this sort of like it's just, that's the thing. And it really it would the they're along with all the sort of anger and annoyance at this, like the fact that would happen, and sitting there like, being a part of that community and on the Twitter, I was, at the time, what I was doing was just like on Twitter every day, just like seeing all the stuff, messaging about it, putting out things saying like this is fucking stupid, and like also trying to do the, well, here's Mork Borg, by the way, which doesn't know licenses. Do the heck what you like, so long as you're not an arsehole, like do what you like. And they put a post on top of mine, which I thought was quite funny, which was saying, it does say, we will own all of your content because we'll buy it from the shop, which I thought was really sweet, because it was like, we will own all of the content you make because we'll buy it all. I was like, that's the attitude. And the thing is, that community, so many people joining into that Discord. We had such a great time in there at the time, all just like memeing with each other and just sort of like saying like, come, all these new people, hello, welcome. And the thing is, like, I saw a few like Kickstarters going out at the same time, and people being extremely successful with it, but also at the same time they're making new content. I just got that the press release for the icon thing through you must have got it as well.
Not yet. So I know what you're talking about though. So.
Yeah, the new one that's just coming out, which is all the like dead gods thing. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. But this, they're still making more content. Anyway, they're going to make money still, but everyone else is making money, and it's all a great. Anyway, we all know this.
As you can tell, this is why we didn't put out an episode during the thing, because I think we just gone over it. Like, would have been breaking news. Everything's still on fire, essentially.
Yes.
So I guess I want to round off this episode, because really it's just us chatting a bit.
Yeah.
So we've obviously mentioned a whole lot of other RPGs, but Hamilton, here's my thing for you. So if, for whatever reason, they pull the plug, D&D Beyond gets like everyone burns their D&D book, like it doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And I know, obviously, Morkborgs, I think, other thing. But was there a particular RPG you'd like to recommend to people to look at, create content for in general? That's maybe akin to the D&D aesthetic, or just in general that you would love to recommend, I think.
Okay, right. Well, obviously, I've already said more, and as you said, Morkborg I think it's just an incredible system, and I think the baseline of it is really good. And that uses the Black Hack, which I've also looked at a few others, which is based on really old school D&D, isn't it? Essentials. I've got another game called Flow, which uses that, which is really fun. And I just think if you go to the Black Hack system, personally for my games, the rules lightness aids my style of play. And it allows combat to work, and this is from a more streaming point of view. But I think when I have gone back to D&D, it has been a bit more fun with a bit more crunch. So with that, what else would I recommend that's equally crunchy? I don't have a good answer, but you know more, because all mine are going to be rules light. And you know a lot more about this, so I would suggest I'd ask you to suggest something.
No worries, and I think there's no problem with that. Obviously, there are so many different kinds of things. Rules, like, I think it's so good to get into. Yeah. Like, for example, if you're first time GMing and you're not so sure, obviously, we've mentioned his name before on other podcasts, but Grant Howart's Page One Shot, they're, on his Patreon, but they're also available for free afterwards.
He's always listening.
He always knows where you are. But those are nice, fun ones if you could get you into that. But I think for me, there's two in my mind that I would go for. One is Quest by Adventure Guild, which uses a D20, and basically anything over a 6 you succeed. Obviously different costs and stuff like that. Yeah. And they have really cool. It's the first RPG that I saw, which has all these different archetypes. So you have, obviously, I can't remember the names off the top of my head, but like soldier, doctor, that sort of thing. And you have like a branching ways to put in your adventure points, which gives you skills. So if you think of video games, that sort of like branching tree aesthetic, essentially, which I think is really cool. And then everything like that is just purely role play. You don't need to be like, you get between a 15 and 17. It's this, it's purely like that sort of coolness. And really that is aimed at fantasy. Yeah. But it doesn't have to be. They've got a new setting, or something like a sci-fi setting, coming out later this year, I think. But that is just really simple, straightforward. So if you are playing with people who've never played
Quest,
Adventure Guild, they're called. So if you've never run a game, and people haven't played D&D, so they're again rules light. So I'd recommend Quest 100%. I had a lot of fun when I ran that. But if you do like a little bit of crunch and you do like fantasy, but you also like playing very flawed, and you like a meta bit of character as well. Yeah, I'm going to recommend one thing, which then spirals into two more things. This is where Fiona's Columbo also. One more thing. So I'm going to recommend Die, the RPG.
Yeah, I thought you were.
Yeah,
I had a feeling you were.
You saw it coming.
Yeah.
So Die itself is a comic book series created by Kieran Gillen and Stephanie Hans, and it's about this idea. It basically is described as Goth Jumanji, where back in the 90s, a group of teenagers play a cursed RPG and then get sucked into that world, and then 5 years later they return, but not obviously traumatized by their experiences, and then they reunite later on as adults who have obviously been changed by those experiences, and then they go back to that world, and obviously things are a bit shit. So it's a bit of Narnia, bit of Jumanji.
It's very isekai as well, the sort of Japanese storyline type. Yeah.
And what I love about it is that, so each class, each paragon it's called, they invoke different things. So you have the dictator, which is a bard type class that uses their voice to influence people. You have like the emotion knight, who has a sentient weapon that's fueled by a particular emotion. You've got like the Godbringer or Godbinder, who talks to all these different gods and has favors, so feels very much like that Sandman-esque type thing.
Very cool.
The Neo, which is like uses basically is the sneaky rogue that uses tech, but they need to have it's called fairy gold or something like that powers the stuff that disappears at the end of every day. And then you have the Fool, who's that very much that Leroy Jenkins that goes in and does stuff. So all very the different archetypes, which are then connected to each of the dice. And then so it's a D6 system, but then you add the dice and do it different ways. Sometimes it's very physical prop as well, which I love. But here's the thing: so when you do the session, it's very much half LARP, half game. So when you start, you come in as the character, your persona. So the flawed person who. But they played a game together and then they've come back and they're like, oh God, we're playing this game again. So you literally start off LARPing, that conversation role thing, and then you give out the dice and then you play the game.
No way.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Very cool. And because I spoke to Kieran recently for Where I'm planning to run a session of it at the end of, I know I had to drop that in.
Speak to everyone.
End of March, I'm going to go up and do one in person. I'm very excited. I'm incredibly nervous.
Where are you playing this?
I'm going to my friends in Leeds. And it's a brand new group of people with one person I already know. I'm very nervous because obviously
I'm recording it.
Yeah, of course I'm recording it. I'm very tense about it because it's so dark. Oh, it's so dark and stuff, and it's playing with new people. So I've gone, here are all the safety things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I would recommend that because it has basically it's very self-aware of like this is what you should be, but you're also shits and you're also flawed. But on top of that, because it's published by Rowan Rook and Descartes, the two other ones I wanted to mention was Heart and Spire. Right. This idea of different, I think it's Spire is the one which all set in one thing, very dread like, and you're working against the big sort of high elves, evil corporate sort of thing. So a lot of different things, but very high fantasy. And then Heart is beneath the Spire, horrible dungeon thing, which is all very much your emotions. Both Die and Heart have dungeons or have worlds that are influenced by your emotions and your flaws and stuff like that. So those are the ones that, like, if you want a really interesting deep world that has that element of fantasy, those three games I would recommend on that front.
Can you ask me the question again, Fiona?
Oh, Hamilton, do you have any RPGs you'd like to recommend in place of D&D? Oh, he's pulled up Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, a massive tome. Was that holding up your desk, my friend? Like, oh my God.
I forgot about this. I was like, I've been reading this since we did Blade Runner, and I've read it before, but I started reading it again because I had to get Blade Runner. You know, I'm going to keep it in my brain. I don't want to completely delete it. But what I did figure out from it that I thought was fun, and High Rollers are doing at the moment a show which you can find on Twitch if you're quick, or become a member of their YouTube and you can watch it, or a Patreon, you can watch it there. But they did their character creation. But the interesting thing that I do like about it, and what they've got in their game, is that they have careers as a theory. And now I haven't got to the home of careers, but it's very much you build your character by choosing your species and then choosing your class and careers. And then you have attributes and skills very similar. And it is a D10 system, not a D20 system, but it's very similar. And it uses attributes that are and skills similar to what you would use in a D&D game, a D&D game and a Warhammer game. So you have weapon skill and ballistic skill, strength, toughness, agility, dexterity, willpower, because that's a big thing in war games, is that you lose willpower and you come off the board, the tabletop, by losing will checks and stuff. And then it has also things such as fellowship points, which is like your group points as well, and it uses wounds instead of hit points, everything like that. The thing that I really enjoy about it is this careers thing, because they have someone on the High Rollers who's a lawyer. And that's your career. That's your class and career, is a lawyer. And like the Tome one that I found is a book of like hundreds of careers, like 100 careers, and it's great for like NPCs because it gives you stats and skills for just like the everyday people. Because in Warhammer Fantasy, the everyday people are as evil as as everyone else, because it's pretty grim dark. You know, it's got one for an abbot, it's got one for a carpenter. You know, they've all got like stat blocks, and they've got like particular skills and ways they would manage. So if you wanted to, like, you just have this tome up, but you could be that. You could just be a carpenter, and that's how your character's class kind of progresses, and I kind of love it for that. And
it's nice to have that detail, like should you want it, and you're not having to be like, oh, I'm trying, because sometimes you have these very vague, like the paragons, all that stuff, and you try to be like, I want to be this person. I sometimes, you know, depending on how you feel about that, you'd be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll be a lawyer, fuck it, I'll be a rat catcher, fuck yeah.
Exactly, that's it. No, 100%. And like the setting is kind of, it's great in its own way, because it really does have that real like grim darkness to it if you want to go down that route, and you can play that. But they have like rogues, they have the bard, which is like a bard, the charlatan, the fence, the grave robber, the outlaw, the racketeer, the thief, and the witch. And they're sort of like really cool little like courtiers. You can be a spy or an advisor or an envoy, you know, like there's sort of like really random ones that gives you so much, like you just think about those characters and you can just imagine something based off all of them, playing this sort of like over bloated empire, which it uses as its sort of backdrop in the old world, which is just sort of like, it's just sort of, it's not a great place to be, and it's just sort of grimy and really not like D&D has become like Waterdeep and sort of cosmopolitan and
the city of splendor.
City of splendor. You know what I mean? Is in it, but it's also kind of, I wouldn't call it high fantasy, but I'd call it like it's sort of contemporary fantasy. And so if you wanted to just get a bit grittier and like, you know, want to go down the sort of like bit more Borgy, but with more of the more crunch, I guess that's what I'd go for.
The takeaway message of this episode is like, you know, if you're still struggling with what's been happening with D&D, there are plenty of other games out there, and please go out and support them, please try them. And obviously, if you're like, I can't, you know, I want to play more, but our D&D group or our groups then they don't regularly do it, there's also solo RPGs as well. You know, there's Ironsworn, yes, absolutely. Starforge, which is the sci-fi version of that. Let's end this episode by I think just sign off. Just saying we appreciate it's still people still probably hurting from this, and people still probably angry, but we need to channel that energy and go forward and make it positive and help people play more games and write content for these games and support the creators as well.
I think that's the most important thing, is like, go find your favorite people, and if you can, just buy as much as you can from them, because they make amazing stuff. And like, we've talked and looked at independent content like Jimmy Flowers, Splinterverse, and Kyle Lander, and we've also had on the show we had Matthew Whitby, who did, you know, look at like, I mean, I think the Forgotten Realms, the Doom Forgotten Realms is one of the best good put together piece of content outside of like it feels just like that could have been a Wizards of the Coast thing, and they've just done a new one for that, the Rise and Fall, the Fall of Vecna, which I'm like, if I could, I want to play that so much. So like, and Jimmy Flowers does a really great podcast episode on YouTube where he talks through a lot of DM's Guild products, so go find those. There's lots out there.
So there's lots out there.
Promote your local game store and your local community maker.
That sounds good. I just thought we'd end by just quickly saying, like, you can get an offer code at Third Space Gaming. If you type in DMPC, you got to do the hand gestures like a little rat and a typewriter.
A right typer. It's a right typer.
You get that in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah.
A right typer. If you type that in DMBC into checkout, you get 10% off your first order. You know, and go check out. I don't think they've got too much in terms of RPGs just now, but hey, I got back into mini painting quite recently, and I'm doing all right in it. And I know, Hamilton, you love. I was going to say you're going to hold up. Oh my god, I love it.
I got to show you the damage of like so doing like all leather effects and stuff.
That is very good. I mean, poor listeners at home can't see, but it's a very impressive Warhammer minifig.
You can find it on my Instagram, Hamilton DM. Hamilton DM.
Hamilton underscore the DM.
DM. That's the one. That's it. Thank you. I forget it. You know it.
All right. Well, until next time, folks, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you
on the flip side.